Hello and welcome to GDPR365. In this video I'm going to go through data mapping. Data mapping is an essential part of GDPR management, and it's where you map the data that flows through your business about data subjects. So data subjects are essentially individuals that you need to understand what you do with their data, and how it works is as follows. First of all, a data subject is an individual to whom personal data belongs. Personal data is any information relating to a natural person. So if you collect information about individuals, you need to categorize them. So we give you a default set of data subject types. You can choose which ones you wish to map, and you click Next on the screen. At this point, it brings those data subjects through and you can work with them. So the first thing we're doing with the data subject is to define what are we doing with their personal data. What do we need to do with their personal data? And this is called the processing purpose. And here we have a list of default processing purposes that you can set for your organization, or you can add your own as you wish and add a new reason for processing, so you can really generate your entire data mapping of your own. So if you select a processing purpose, in terms of GDPR, you have to have a legal basis for managing and holding that information. So these come straight out of the GDPR. We have the data subject's consent, and you must set a retention period. So we're setting until consent withdrawn. So once I've mapped all of the processing purposes that are relevant in this data subject type, I can click over here and it shows me those processing purposes down below. So I click into each one, and for each processing purpose, what I need to do is show what personal data types I hold for that processing purpose, or I use for that processing purpose, what sensitive personal data types I use, where the processing happens, and I have both in-house and external locations. So the personal data types is really simple. You can add new ones as you wish by adding them in and clicking over here, and then you select them. Sensitive personal data is slightly more complex because some of it may be biometric, and we've set biometric defaults. You can add your own sensitive personal data, give it a legal basis, as well as set it to biometric or not, and then click Add to add them. If you put them in, you must also give a legal basis for that, for processing that sensitive personal data. And this is a separate legal basis to the legal basis for a processing purpose. And it refers to separate articles in the GDPR. Your processing locations can be in-house locations, and once again you can add new ones as you wish and state whether they are outside of the EU. By default they are inside. Or you can set external locations, and if you set an external location, essentially you're adding an external company. Let's say, for example, you're processing CRM data with somebody else. You would add that organization in here, and later on you would need to get a processor contract with that organization. So we have the full management of all of that. If you click data sharing in your interview, you can select data sharing entities or add in new ones that you share this data with. So once you've done the data mapping for a data subject, you would mark it as complete, in which case it's fair enough for you to go off and it'll generate your privacy notices, etc. But at this point, what you can also do is visualize your data mapping, and really you can go in, you've got your company, you've got your data subject type, you've got your processing purpose with the legal basis and the retention period. You can click to open it up. You have your personal data types that are being held. You have sensitive personal data types, and it gives you the legal basis as well. You have your in-house locations, which will tell you if they're out of the country or not, and you have your processing the same processing locations. We have external locations, which are processors, and we've got the processing type, and we've got the country in which they're in. You can obviously expand everything, and then you've got your full, or collapse everything with your data mapping. So once you've done the data mapping, we come to the data collection part of it. it's telling me that that I haven't completed the data mapping, but I can still go forward to the data collection. Data collection is really saying, for this data subject type, the financial details, I collected them directly from the person involved, or indirectly from from a third-party organization. If I give indirectly, I have to state what the name of that organization is. Once again, I can visualize my data collection and expand it all, and it shows me exactly where I collected information from. So data mapping is an essential part of your GDPR compliance, and it's a long process to map all the data for your organization. What it does feed into is into your privacy notice, which we generate for you. It's one of the things that it does. So it feeds into your privacy notice. You can have a look at the generated privacy notice, which states your processing purpose, what we do with your personal data, what personal data do we collect, where we collect your data from. Indirect sources, it states what those are. Who we share your data with, it states who the data is shared with. And then the rest is generated. And I will there is a separate video about privacy notices. What we also do with the data mapping is it informs processors that you need to get a contract signed with, and I will do that in a separate contract. So data mapping brings through a lot of information into the entire GDPR compliance process. All right, thank you very much for that.